All right. So this is going to be a bit of a longer video probably because if you're new to this channel, I normally take one subject and one article and discuss it in a video. But since we have two articles that deal with one general topic, in this case abortion, one is at a federal level and one is at the state level, I decided to just do one bigger video instead of making two videos because, like I said, it's basically the same general topic. It's just different levels. So let's start with the first one. So this one is titled, Supreme Court Appears Skeptical That State Abortion Bans Conflict with Federal Health Care Law. Because, we have to start with the bad news. So, basically what I'm reading from this headline is the Supreme Court doesn't think that abortion is health care. Which, considering all the religious nuts on the court, doesn't surprise me, but still disappointing. Alright. Conservative Supreme Court justices appeared skeptical Wednesday that state abortion bans after their sweeping ruling overturning Roe v. Wade violates federal health care law, though some also questioned the effects on emergency care for pregnant patients. Wow, they're at least empathetic to some. That's an improvement. The case marks the first time the Supreme Court has considered the implications of a state ban since overturning the nationwide right to abortion. It comes from Idaho, which is among 14 states that now ban abortion at all stages of pregnancy with very limited exceptions. The High Court has already allowed the state ban to go into effect, even in medical emergencies, and it was unclear whether members of the conservative majority were swayed by the Biden administration's argument that federal law overrides the state in rare emergency cases where pregnant patients' health is at serious risk. Because if we don't that's been a precedent from the very beginning. Federal law supersedes state law, where the state contradicts federal law. In this case, there is a law protecting not just abortion, but people who, I guess in this case it's abortion, protecting women who need abortions to save their lives. There is a federal law for that. The justices seem skeptical that that's necessary because it's not like abortion's health care or something. Alright. The closely watched case tests how open the 6-justice conservative majority is to carving out limited exceptions to state abortion bans. I'm going to say there's none. Their ruling expected by late June, why does everything have to be in June? Could have wide implications amid a spike in complaints that pregnant women have been turned away from emergency room care since Roe was overturned. It's entirely possible that some of these justices might, face reality head on and at least say, oh, we didn't realize the implications of our ruling, or we didn't realize how many women actually needed abortion as health care. But something tells me that most of them it's not going to affect them one bit. And I'm being generous by saying most. Probably all. The Biden administration says abortion care must be allowed in those states under a law that requires hospitals accepting Medicare to provide emergency care regardless of patients' ability to pay. Justice Samuel Alito, who wrote the decision overturning Roe v. Wade, was doubtful. Of course he was. How can you impose restrictions on what Idaho can criminalize simply because hospitals in Idaho have chosen to participate in Medicare, he said. Wow. So basically, we can criminalize healthcare, and you'd think that that's perfectly okay. You do understand that people who looked like you used to be put in internment camps just because they looked like you. Because we were at war with Japan and nobody gave a shit about nuance. And now here you are just basically saying, oh, states can criminalize whatever the hell they want. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. It doesn't matter if it's healthcare. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? They can criminalize whatever the hell they want. Are you sure you want to go down that road? Anyway, Idaho contends its ban does have exceptions for life-saving abortions, and the administration wants to wrongly expand the times when it's allowed to turn hospitals into abortion enclaves. If hospitals are turning women away who legitimately need abortions as health care because their lives are in danger, that's telling you that your little exception still scares doctors. And why? Because they will have Big Brother watching over their shoulders, deciding whether their medical opinion was the correct one, even though Big Brother has never gone to medical school and wouldn't know a medical decision if it bit him in the ass. So, yeah, how about we don't have exceptions and we let doctors decide what's best for their patients? There's an idea. And what the fuck is an abortion enclave? It's not like the states where abortions are legal. There's this assembly line where they just have pregnant women come in and they perform abortions and don't, without any thought as to what's happening. That is not how any of this works. But liberal justices detailed cases of pregnant women hemorrhaging or having to undergo hysterectomies after abortion care was denied or delayed in states with bans. Oh, but we can't have, we can't consider that or anything. I mean, that would imply that women are human beings. Why would we want to do that? Within these rare cases, there's a significant number where the woman's life is not in peril, but she's going to lose her reproductive organs. She's going to lose the ability to have children in the future unless an abortion takes place, said Justice Elena Kagan. I'm sure these guys do not live under a rock. I'm sure, actually, Kate Cox was at the State of the Union. And most of the justices were there. There were a couple that weren't there, which was odd, but there were a couple that weren't there. So there is no reason for these justices to not be aware of what can happen if a woman is denied an abortion by a court simply because they think they know what it means to have the woman's life in danger, or whatever the exception is. She's proof. She is the poster child at this point for why abortions are necessary. I mean, I don't know how to make it any more clear. Conservative Justice Amy Coney Barrett, meanwhile, said she was kind of shocked that an attorney for Idaho appeared to hedge when asked whether the state would allow abortions in cases like those. Attorney Joshua N. Turner responded that doctors can use their good faith medical judgment under Idaho's life-saving exception, but Barrett continued to press, what if the prosecutor thinks differently? Wow, Amy Coney Barrett is actually thinking like a woman and not a Stepford wife? Damn. You guys really fucked up if you lost her. All right, abortion access in the U.S. Let's see here. All right. Turner acknowledged that a doctor could face a criminal case in that situation. Oh, Lord. Performing an abortion outside of limited exceptions in Idaho is a felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison. See, that's what you're not getting, sweetheart. You should not be the one to decide whether a doctor is properly following your exceptions. The doctor should know whether a woman's life is in danger. You shouldn't be the one to decide because, again, this Kate Cox's story went up to the Supreme Court in Texas, and they still said, nope, we don't have enough proof that she needs an abortion. Even though there was plenty of proof. So, no, the prosecutor should not have any say in whether the doctor followed the exception, because they obviously don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Doctors have said Idaho's abortion ban has already affected emergency care. More women whose conditions are typically treated with abortions must now be flown out of state for care, since doctors must wait until they are close to death to provide terminations within the bounds of state law. Are you kidding me? I mean, seriously, you think that that's an acceptable way to treat women? Oh, well, you're not on death's door, so you obviously don't need an abortion. What? Seriously, how can you call yourself pro-life if women have to be practically dead before you're going to allow for an abortion? That is not pro-life. That is pro-torture. You just want to torture these women because you have this idea of what kind of woman needs an abortion. And because you decide that you would rather slut shame rather than treating women as human beings, you think it's perfectly okie dokie to torture them and, make them, regret having sex with their husbands? Seriously, what do you think you're accomplishing with this law? I mean, seriously, what kind of, do you just hate women? Seriously, I do not understand the thought process of why people are doing this. Because even if there was too many abortions, elective abortions, even if that were the case, how they do not get to this point where they need an emergency abortion. They're going to get one as soon as they find out they're pregnant. They're not going to have health effects from it. They won't have health effects that would cause them to get an abortion. They do not fit this demographic. So seriously, why do you think that someone has to be on death's door before they can get health care? You literally don't do this for any other medical treatment. Why are we doing this with abortion? It is so freaking stupid. Abortion opponents say doctors have mishandled maternal emergency cases and argue the Biden administration overstates healthcare woes to undermine state abortion laws. Or maybe, just maybe, you do not want to accept that your laws, which you think made perfect sense in your head, might not be the laws that might not be what might not have the consequences you want. Because, again, Kate Cox went through the process. She still was denied. She went out of state in the meantime because she knew that it was now or never. This is not about the doctors mishandling these cases. This was a woman who did things correctly, and she was still denied. So, no, this isn't about the doctors mishandling these cases. This is about them being scared shitless that these anti-women crusaders are going to attack them for daring to keep a woman alive, to keep a woman's ability to have children, to whatever the reason for the abortion. That should be the doctor's decision, not lawyers, and certainly not a bunch of busybody anti-abortionists who don't know the first thing of what they want, that what abortion even does. Because many of them, once they are confronted with certain cases, like, needing an abortion when you have a miscarriage. And a lot of people are just shocked. They're floored that, oh, you need an abortion for that. It never occurred to them. There are so many consequences to these laws that anti-abortionists do not think of. Because they don't care about women. They care about birth. They are pro-birth. They are, I shouldn't even say anti-abortion, because technically nobody is pro-abortion except for anti-natalists, maybe. But people aren't pro-abortion. They have to have it for whatever reason. And people who know nothing of your situation shouldn't be telling you how to live your life. It is just mind-boggling how people seem to think that they're experts on everything when they probably never opened a biology book, let alone a medical book. The justices also heard another abortion case this term seeking to restrict access to abortion medication. It remains pending, though the justices overall seem skeptical of the push. Well, at least something. At least they're allowing the FDA to do its damn job. So, we've got that going for us. The Justice Department originally brought the case against Idaho, arguing the state's abortion law conflicts with the 1986 Emergency Medical Treatment and Active Labor Act, known as EMTALA. It requires hospitals that accept Medicare to provide emergency care to any patient regardless of their ability to pay. Nearly all hospitals accept Medicare. Yeah. I mean, one other thing, it's Medicare. So these are people who have low income. So the very people who are making decisions, maybe it's financial decisions. I'm on Medicare. I can't afford to have a kid. And you're punishing them for being financially with it. That's just, so many reasons why this should not be happening. A federal judge initially sided with the administration and ruled that abortions were legal in medical emergencies. After the state appealed, the Supreme Court allowed the law to go fully into effect in January. Now, how in the world can you claim that there are exceptions in your law, like for medical emergencies, like the life of the mother? Well, how can you claim that and then have a problem with the federal law? You can't have it both ways. You gotta pick one. Outside the court, dueling protesters gathered with signs like "Abortion saves lives" from one side of the crowd and "Emergency rooms are not abortion clinics" from abortion opponents. You know, that just screams you have no idea what happens in an emergency room at all. That says so much more about the people who are holding up those signs than anything else. So, yeah. This isn't going to turn hospitals into abortion assembly lines where they do all day is abortions. That's not how emergency care works. So yeah, like I said, these people, this says a lot more about them than it does anything else. Inside, the audience was sparse, though with several benches empty or sparingly used. Well, I really don't know how the Supreme Court works, so I don't know if that's unusual or if that's the way it normally works. So, yeah. So that's all I have for that article. So let's move on to the kind of sort of good news. And I say that because just like the Supreme Court ruling, this is still pending, but hopefully we're heading in the right direction, unlike the Supreme Court. So, this one. Arizona House advances a repeal of the state's near total abortion ban to the Senate. Which, just reading that, is great news. I'm concerned what the replacement will be. But the fact that they're doing this, even if it is just in hopes of saving their own hides, because let's face it, that is the only reason they're doing this. I mean, the Democrats had to try multiple times to do this. So, obviously, this is something that the House is fine with, either that or their constituents basically told them, repeal this or you're out. So, let's just see what the article says. A proposed repeal of Arizona's near-total ban on abortions won approval from the state House Wednesday after 2 weeks of mounting pressure on Republicans over an issue that has bedeviled former President Donald Trump's campaign to return to the White House. And I'm not sure why, because Trump basically has been on every side you could possibly be. So, yeah, I don't know. 3 Republicans joined in with all 29 Democrats Wednesday to repeal a law that predated Arizona's statehood and provides no exceptions for rape or incest. If the Senate approves as expected, Arizona would allow abortion up to 15 weeks. Okay, still not thrilled that there's an exception, but that's a hell of a lot better than not being able to get one at all. So, their political ambitions imperiled by widespread opposition to a near-total abortion ban, Trump and U.S. Senate candidate Kari Lake had urged Arizona lawmakers to ease the restrictions. I just want to point out that Kari Lake actually approves of the law. We actually have her on tape doing just that. She approves of this 1864 law. She just, wants a chance to actually win. But until Wednesday, most state House Republicans repeatedly used procedural votes to block repeal, each time drawing condemnation from Democratic President Joe Biden, who has made his support for abortion rights central to his re-election campaign. Now, for all Joe Biden's faults, and there are many, this is something that I respect him for. He is a good Catholic. Personally, he is pro-life. Now, but that's his personal view. The reason he is pro-choice outside of himself is because he understands not everybody agrees with his views. So he's not going to force his religious views on other people. And that's the way it should be. If your religion tells you that you should be pro-life and that abortion is wrong in all circumstances and I would rather die than have an abortion, or whatever your stance, that's fine. You just don't have the right to tell other people how to do that. Anyway, make no mistake, Arizonans are living in 1864 now because Donald Trump dismantled Roe v. Wade. Not exactly wrong, even though Trump did say that Arizona went too far. But again, I don't know if it's simply because Trump didn't think of the consequences, which that wouldn't surprise me one bit, or he just is saying whatever he needs to keep people voting for him, which is more likely the answer. But, yeah, even he said, I'm backing away from that law. Democratic State Senator Priya Sundaresan, oh boy, I hope I didn't totally screw that up, of Tucson, that's where I was born, said in a news conference Wednesday organized by the Biden campaign and the Arizona Democratic Party. And yeah, like I said, that is true. The repeal vote comes a day after Biden said Trump created a healthcare crisis for women all over this country by hindering their access to care. Exactly. As much as pro-birthers want to scream this has nothing to do with healthcare, it has everything to do with healthcare. Just because you don't think it's about healthcare doesn't mean it isn't. There is plenty of things that fall under healthcare that just because you didn't think of it doesn't mean that they don't exist. Because if you ask people what is healthcare, I'm sure they wouldn't be able to give you an exhaustive list. Okay, where am I? Dozens of people gathered outside the state capitol before the House and Senate were scheduled to meet, then filled seats in the public gallery as lawmakers voted, many of them carrying signs or wearing shirts showing their opposition to abortion rights. Well, that's lovely. Now, what I want to know, and hopefully this article will tell us, is those three who finally voted with Democrats. What changed? Besides possibly being up for re-election. Oh wait, this is the House, so maybe just like the U.S. House, they're up every 2 years? I don't know. Arizona Republicans have been under intense pressure from some conservatives in their base who firmly support the abortion ban, even as it's become a liability with swing voters who will decide crucial races, including the presidency, the U.S. Senate, and the GOP's control of the legislature. I am disgusted today, says GOP Representative Rachel Jones, who voted against repeal. Life is one of the tenets of our Republican platform. To see people go back on that value is egregious to me. What about the life of the mother, you dimwit? Nobody seems to care about her. Every person who claims that they're pro-life and that how they believe in life and blah, 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 they don't seem to give a rat's ass about the life of the mother. Nobody cares about the woman. Why? Because, again, they have this idea in their head and they have to slut shame because otherwise they have to accept that they're horrible people who don't give a shit about women unless they're walking incubators. I mean, it is just unreal. The Arizona Supreme Court concluded the state can enforce a long-dormant law that permits abortions only to save the pregnant patient's life. Okay. So again, they have to be on death's door. How exactly is this helpful to the woman? Because I can tell you that a lot of people who are on death's door, they suffer long-term consequences. This isn't like I was at death's door, but I'm all better now. And I'm like I was before I was on death's door. No, that's not how it works. The ruling suggested doctors could be prosecuted under the law first approved in 1864, which carries a sentence of 2 to 5 years in prison for anyone who assists in an abortion. Yeah, because this was during Civil War times. I mean, I just don't, a year before the Civil War started, but still. I just do not see how, if I recall correctly, in the Bible there is a recipe of how to have an abortion. An herbal recipe. Now, whether it works or not, or some type of strange recipe. Now, whether it works or not, it's not the point. But it's in the freaking Bible. It's in one of the Psalms, I think. I just do not understand why people are making this a biblical issue. That is literally the only time abortion is mentioned. A week ago, one Republican in the Arizona House joined all Democrats to bring the repeal measure to a vote, but the effort failed twice on 30 to 30 votes. Okay, so we got from 1 to 3. Again, I would love to know, besides fear that they would lose their seats, I would love to know why the sudden change of heart. The law had been blocked since the U.S. Supreme Court's 1973 Roe v. Wade decision guaranteed the constitutional right to an abortion nationwide. After Roe v. Wade was overturned in June 2022, oh my God, it's been that long already, the then Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich, a Republican, persuaded a state judge that the 1864 ban could be enforced. Still, the law hasn't actually been enforced while the case was making its way through the courts. Brnovich's Democratic successor, Attorney General Chris Mayes, urged the state's high court against reviving the law. Just like here in Wisconsin, I think I recall them saying that there was actually another law that supposedly superseded this one. I do not know why we went back to the draconian one. Same thing in Wisconsin. I don't know why we skipped one of the laws and went to the draconian one, which turned out to not be saying what people thought they were saying. But why? Mays has said the earliest the law could be enforced is June 8th, though the anti-abortion group defending the ban, Alliance Defending Freedom, maintains county prosecutors can begin enforcing it once the Supreme Court's decision becomes final, which is expected to occur this week. You're not defending freedom. Why is it that conservatives always have freedom or patriot in their names, as if that shows that they aren't for the exact opposite? All they want to do is fool people. If the proposed repeal wins final approval from the Republican-controlled legislature and is signed into law by Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs, a 2022 statute banning the procedure after 15 weeks of pregnancy would become the prevailing abortion law. So why didn't it just automatically become the law anyway? I just don't understand this. Planned Parenthood officials vowed to continue providing abortions for the short time they are still legal and said that they will reinforce networks that help patients travel out of state to places like New Mexico and California to access abortion. Great, an underground railroad for abortion. Good God. We shouldn't need that. This past summer, abortion rights advocates began a push to ask Arizona voters to create a constitutional right to abortion. The proposed constitutional amendment would guarantee abortion rights until a fetus could survive outside the womb, typically around 24 weeks. It also would allow later abortions to save the parent's life or to protect her physical or mental health. All sounds perfectly reasonable to me. And that's another thing that these pro-birthers don't get. If you have an abortion at 6 weeks or even 15 weeks, it's not like this fetus could survive outside the mother. So why are you treating it like it's its own individual being? It doesn't even know it exists yet. Republican lawmakers, in turn, are considering putting one or more competing abortion proposals on the November ballot. A leaked planned document outlined the approaches being considered by House Republicans, such as codifying existing abortion regulations, proposing a 14-week ban that would be disguised as a 15-week law. Okay, what the hell does that mean? Because it would allow abortions until the beginning of the 15th week and measures that would prohibit abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy, before many people know they're pregnant. I'm not sure. I still don't understand that proposed 14-week ban, but okay. Oh, until the beginning of the 15th week. Okay. So, I get it now. And a measure that would prohibit abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. Hopefully, luckily there's a Democratic governor, so that one shouldn't work. But because this is supposed to be a referendum, God knows which one is going to pass and which one voters are going to be okay with. Hopefully, this will propel those who are pro-choice. Now, see that I'm not saying Democrats, because there are plenty of Republicans who are pro-choice. This isn't a partisan issue. This is generally a gender issue. Well, actually, I should say a sex issue. Most women are pro-choice because they personally wouldn't want to be in a situation where they wouldn't have the choice. I'm not going to say most men are pro-life because I don't know. I would like to think most men actually give a shit about women and think about women and respect them, and as opposed to these yahoos who think they know better than women. All right. House Republicans have not yet publicly released any such proposed ballot measures. So that is all I have for that article. So those are the two issues, well, three issues that are being dealt with on the abortion front right now. And I will continue to follow this, and hopefully everything works out. But given the U.S. Supreme Court, I don't think so. But hopefully at least Arizona will, have it enshrined in their constitution that women are human beings. That would be great. Anyway, that is all I have for this video. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.